Paleo Diet Health Benefits is today's topic. Hi, my name is Matt, and on today's Cured by Nature's episode, I have a very special guest talking about Paleo Diet Health Benefits. My guest today is V Capaldi. This lady is truly amazing. She has been doing a lot of biohacking since she was faced with multiple sclerosis or MS. Now, multiple sclerosis is devastating and overwhelming, as you can imagine. But V Capaldi decided to find a way to biohack it. So she tried a lot of different things, and one of the most important was diet. Considering you found this video looking for paleo diet health benefits, I take it you want to know more about natural ways to become healthy and stay healthy. So I invite you to subscribe and click that little bell button too. This way you'll never miss any of our future episodes. So V Capaldi had to deal with multiple sclerosis, for which most of the medical professionals say is irreversible or incurable. But she was determined to find a way. V Capaldi's website is paleobosslady.com. There are not many successful cases on how to reverse multiple sclerosis, but if there's one, that means it sure can be done. And she's definitely an inspiration. And a big part of this reversal for V was her version of the paleo diet. Today, through the so-called biohacking, she manages all of her symptoms from this secondary progressive MS 100% by herself. No Western doctors, no pharmaceutical drugs. Now the interview you've been waiting for, Paleo Diet Health Benefits. So first of all, thanks so much for being on this interview again. We love to have you. And let's just jump into the first topic, which is paleo diet and paleo diet foods. If paleo diet is good or bad. Let's just start by you explaining the paleo diet. Paleo diet explain or something like that.
Okay, well, the paleo diet, it's really very simple, although for a lot of people, I think it sounds a little complicated. The paleo diet is supposed to mimic the way our ancestors ate. So that would include protein sources, which could be chicken, beef, fish, anything like that, vegetables, and fruit. And we typically strive for grass-fed, wild-caught, organic in all of those products. But that literally is what the paleo diet breaks down to. So it's void of dairy, grains, legumes, gluten, and processed food in general. There's really no processed style food in the paleo diet. So most people that eat paleo are cooking fairly often, not really pulling things out of a box, can, or jar. Your refrigerator is just filled with fruits, vegetables, and protein sources with healthy, delicious fats. And what do healthy fats look like? It looks like cooking oils, which could be avocado oil, olive oil, meat fats, and as well as coconut oil. And we also get fat from avocados, coconut milk, nuts, things like that. And in the paleo world, I would say seeds have become an extra food group. I find myself eating a lot of nuts and seeds, which quite honestly, I never really ate before, unless I was carving a pumpkin and would take the pumpkin seeds out at Halloween. But now, seeds have become sort of a food group. I eat seeds. So whether it's hemp seeds or chia seeds, which are all superfoods. So that to me is sort of a layman's version and easy to digest version of the paleo diet.
So tell me, obviously eating as close to nature has its health benefits, but what specifically does the paleo diet have that specific paleo diet health benefits?
Well, it's really interesting because I tried a lot of different eating protocols. Okay, so just to take it a step back, I live with multiple sclerosis, Epstein-Barr, Hashimoto's, and probably Lyme disease. So all of those are autoimmune issues, progressive, often debilitating diseases that I manage completely with diet and lifestyle. I tried a lot of different eating lifestyles and protocols before I settled on paleo. So it was almost a biohack journey for myself, although I didn't even know what biohacking was, which is sort of marrying your biology with everything. How does your body work optimally? So I was vegetarian, I was vegan, I was Pritikin, the Swank diet, which is a very specific diet for people with MS. It's a low-fat diet. I did, I'm trying Atkins, just trying to think, eat right for your blood type. I did all those. And those did nothing other than maybe help me lose a little bit of weight. So when I stumbled upon the paleo diet, it was really, I had met with a nutritionist. I was at my wit's end. I literally was barely able to function day to day because of the effects of all these issues on my body. And she gave me a 4-month protocol that wasn't paleo, but it was kind of. It involved having whey protein shakes and cutting out refined sugars, gluten, dairy, grains, legumes. But it did have other things in it that wouldn't really fall into paleo, like pea proteins and a lot of whey protein and things like that. So I did that, and I started feeling a lot better. So going to Dr. Google, I started doing research, and it led me to Lauren Cordain's book about paleo, which was the first book I ever read. And it's a more scientific approach to understanding paleo. And he talks about the science and mitochondrial function and cellular level approaches. And what does all that mean? Basically, what they've learned in the paleo diet, and Dr. Terry Wells with her protocol even takes it a step further, is that a paleo approach to eating is a cellular level approach to living. Basically, what it does is it gives our body, our mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of our cells, everything it needs to thrive. So, by removing those high inflammatory foods, which are usually gluten and, for a lot of this dairy, I've had a dairy intolerance my whole life. Although no one ever told me to stop eating dairy, although I would go to a doctor and complain that eating dairy would give me a tummy ache. They just gave me drugs. They never said don't eat dairy. I stopped eating dairy and those tummy aches went away. So paleo for me has been an evolution and a biohacking journey that has delivered optimal function, which in turn means that every symptom of MS has been able to be managed through a combination of the paleo diet and lifestyle changes.
Okay, now I should have done this in the beginning, and I am going to do this in the introduction, but at this point, I think it's important for me to stress for all the listeners that V truly knows what she's talking about when she's talking about doing the research and trying different diets and different protocols. You see, guys, she was faced with multiple sclerosis, which she still is today. So this was not a free time research for V. Isn't that correct? This was a matter of being in the wheelchair, lying in bed, having difficulties to move, and being able to function in life the way normal people without multiple sclerosis function. So, when you say that you tried everything, now people can really understand that this really means you dig deep into those, diets and try a whole lot of stuff, trying to make it, trying to figure out, trying to, create the formula for success to get you off the wheelchair, because I do remember that you were on a wheelchair, as a matter of fact. And you had trouble with limbs, right?
My limbs, my hands more, and I had involuntary limb jumping. So my leg would flail around and I would have trouble placing it, but it never progressed to the point that I needed a wheelchair, although mobility, driving, and things like that were definitely. I lost bilateral use of my hands, which is even more disabling than not being able to use your legs. Not that we want to compare disabilities as one being more of a mental challenge than the other, but when you can't use your hands, you really can't do anything. I mean, think about it.
Yes.
I mean, if you can't walk, you can still feed yourself, dress yourself, but when you can't use your hands, you can't hold a fork, you can't use the ladies' room, you can't hold the bar of soap, you can't pull up a zipper. I couldn't elevate my hands above my waist, so I couldn't even put a shirt on like that, but I also couldn't do buttons, so it was
okay. Well,
very
okay. my mistake, not a wheelchair. So
Mhm.
but definitely, having trouble to move your limbs and especially your hands. Okay, so that's a big deal
Mhm.
by itself. But tell me, a lot of people, compare diets, compare keto with paleo, compare the plant-based diet, which includes nothing that's not plant-based, with keto and paleo and all that. So how does that compare with isn't the plant-based diet the one that we should go with, and not having meats and stuff that these arguments you hear about them, people that are into keto, people that are into paleo, and then people that are into plant-based, so completely vegan. They're into each other's hair all the time, like almost fighting in these debates.
Sure. Sure, I was a part of a thing that I think it was NBC or one of the big networks did. I guess it's 2 years ago now. It was paleo versus vegan, and they interviewed a lot of paleo people and a lot of vegan people, and then they had the community vote. And one of the things that came out of it was, well, first of all, paleo won, but as what was the better eating protocol. But what you really felt listening to these interviews is it almost was like fighting. And it made me take a step back. It's like, why are we fighting over what is the right diet? To me, or the right way to eat. I don't even like to call it diet. These are lifestyle choices in my lens. And for me, it really is. We all have to answer to our own body and our own lifestyle. So, that as far as keto, I follow the Walls protocol pretty much. I'd say, meaning that is my template. Okay, now I biohack that template, meaning that the Walls protocol says no eggs. I can have eggs. So when I'm talking about biohacking, it doesn't mean that I'm going to go eat a box of Cheerios. I don't eat anything outside of the paleo clean eating lens. But the Walls protocol wants you to have between 6 and 9 cups of fruits and vegetables a day. So I consume copious amounts of fruits and vegetables a day. And the reason why is because Dr. Walls believes that makeup of 3 cups of leafy greens, 3 cups of sulfur-rich vegetables, 3 cups of dark colored vegetables, that marriage of that quantity and combination provides what your mitochondria, again, the powerhouse of your cells, need to live optimally. So there are a lot of people that can't do 6 to 9 cups of fruits and vegetables, but still eat under the guidelines of the Walls protocol. Maybe they're eating 2 to 4 cups, but still getting the same results. So I really, when I was touring around America, which for 3 years I lived in strangers' homes, anyone in America that was sick or suffering or just in need, all they had to do was reach out to me. I would drive to them. We'd spend glorious three days together and just engage each other. And one of the things that really was very important for me to have people understand is that although my brand name is Paleo Boss Lady, I really don't care if you eat paleo. I just want people to get conscious about what they're eating and to live in harmony with their body. And instead of in the tradition of American healthcare system, we're taught in America that if you eat a piece of pizza and it gives you heartburn, ignore what your body's saying. Take an antacid. Eat as much pizza as you want. We'll give you a pill to ignore that your body doesn't like pizza. I want people to change that narrative. And if you eat something and your body doesn't like it, don't eat it.
Yeah, we have a hard time with that. Yeah.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
we do. And I have to tell you, I don't drink alcohol or wine, but I was someone that, which in America again is very common to see, that 5 o'clock buzzer goes off and, people are running for that glass of wine or that, end of signal, my work day's over, I'm going to unwind. And I had to take Advil every night, and I woke up every day feeling like crap, but it never stopped me from that 5 o'clock drink, right? And then once I got conscious and I had a drink and my body said no more and I listened, I've never had a drink again. And the benefits from not having alcohol for me were so great. But for, I'm going to say 30 years, I had that headache. I woke up feeling bad the next day, and it never once triggered anything in my mind other than take an Advil or before you go to bed so that you don't wake up feeling so crappy. Never that maybe my body doesn't like this. So my paleo journey is not so much about what I'm eating and what I'm not eating. It's more about what my body likes, what my body doesn't like, and me being awake, reading ingredients, saying, no, I'm not going to put food in my body that is basically poison.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, it's really a mindset.
I know. We have to. It's really building the muscles that um. So let me put it differently. We have a weak will muscles, right? Our will and our follow up what we decide, like decision making muscles and all that. We have a very weak muscles to do that. So we kind of have to build it up or something. Anyways, tell me. So you can, the paleo diet includes protein, which means eggs and which means meats, and yeah, it should be as organic as possible. How much of that is just right? And I understand we have to listen to our body and all that, but what would you say? How much of the proteins, animal proteins, is just right, and how much is too much, and stuff like that?
Well, again, I hate to say this again. I mean, there is sort of a standard that you can follow. So they say you should eat the palm of your hand equal to this 2 times a day. So you're going to have a burger, 2 burgers that look like the size of your hand, or a piece of chicken or fish. That's what they say is sort of the standard. Someone like myself that followed that standard, when I go to my naturopath and we check, blood and inflammation markers and all that stuff, I'm protein deficient. I'm actually anemic. So someone like me, I eat 4 times because my body requires that. That may not be the case for other people. And it's interesting because when I was working with Western medicine doctors and not functional medicine doctors, what the heck am I talking about? Western medicine doctors are the standard of care in America, meaning you go to a doctor, you say, I eat pizza, I have heartburn, they give you medication, they deal with the symptoms, they don't really care why you're having heartburn. They just want to stop you from having heartburn with symptomatic management. Functional medicine, on the other hand, is like they want to know why you're having that heartburn. They don't want to give you a medication to mask it. They want to figure out what is triggering that. Is it the pizza? Is it the gluten? Is it the cheese? What is it? Is it all of them? So that's the difference in functional medicine versus Western medicine. In America, our standard of care is Western medicine. I go to a functional medicine doctor who checks levels and sees that my protein is deficient. Whereas when I went to my Western medicine doctor, they were looking at my cholesterol through a different lens than my functional medicine doctor does and telling me to eat less meat. I eat too much meat. So what happened was I made myself anemic because they weren't checking my protein levels. So my Western medicine doctor, who was only looking at cholesterol and looking at it through a much different lens than my functional medicine doctor does, told me lower your protein. You eat too much, limit it once a week. I did so much that I've been anemic now for 2.5 years and eating a ton of protein and still having trouble getting it up to where it's supposed to be. So I hate to keep going back to individual, but it truly is. There is a template of twice a day, the palm of your hand, and you can follow that guideline. And I think that standard would work for most of us. I just happen to be someone who requires a lot more protein. And the interesting thing is, I've always said to all my doctors, and this may sound very strange, but I crave blood. Like, I literally wake up and I'm like, I need a bloody piece of meat right now. Like almost like a vampire. And I know that sounds crazy. And it took me a long time to even be able to say it out loud. But there are certain times where I almost would get like how people do when they haven't eaten, they get a little glycemic, response. I would actually get like a little shaky. And I remember when I was married to my second husband, his parents were both doctors, and they were the first people that I ever felt comfortable like saying this to them because they were family, And my father-in-law at the time said to me, he said, no, that's very common for a lot of people. So you should make sure that you consume red meat, like listening to your body. And that was the first time that really anyone ever said that to me, that if I'm having a craving for something, my body is speaking to me and I need to listen. Although it took me 20 plus years later to really hear what he was saying, my body has craved high amounts of protein.
Well, I'm sure most of us can relate when it comes to sugar. Since sugar is almost in all of the foods that you buy that are even those that are very that have minor processing, but they put sugar in all the sauces and everything. Um, so we kind of tend to get a portion of the sugar even if we don't want to. Let's say that you're eating out. Let's say that you don't have the time or the opportunity to make your own food and stuff like that. So you grab a croissant or whatever. It just and all that is even more sugar. But I'm just saying that we have we when our sugar drops, that's when we get cravings, and it's mostly for sugar. So and you have that with meat. And speaking of sugar, tell me, I know the same as alcohol, sugar is a no-no, but we do, we do crave for sweet things. There's delicious cakes and stuff and just great sugary food all around us. How much of that can we have without it being too much? You know what I mean? Like saying alcohol. I'm sure that if we have a glass of wine, not once a day but once a week with a meal, even though it's not alcohol by itself, it's not good for the body, but that glass of wine, it's just, if you're eating a healthy, if you're having a healthy lifestyle, having a healthy diet, that one glass of wine is not going to matter at all. You know what I mean? Is with sugar kind of the same? Can we have a cake once a week, or should we have it once a month, or shouldn't we have it at all?
Well, sugar is my drug of choice. I'm not going to lie. Meaning that, I've the hardest thing for me has been to overcome what I call a sugar addiction. Although I haven't eaten refined foods in almost over 10 years at this point, almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years January. I still do eat a lot of fruits that have natural sugar, or things that would have coconut sugar, acceptable forms of sugar, coconut sugar. Honey, I really don't eat anything really with honey too much at all. Maple syrup, things like that. I can tell you that for me, they are in any form triggers of, once I have one, I want more. So I have to consciously choose not to have that. Meaning, I made a choice this summer because summer fruits are so delicious and I like to eat seasonal. The problem is if I buy a pound of cherries, I eat a pound of cherries. That's too much. Ever since I've been eating clean, I've developed sort of this eating disorder, this orthorexia, meaning that when it comes to things that have sugar, and we could even be talking fruit, I tend to overdo. So, which I never did before. Like, I baked a cake every Sunday in my house for my daughter when I was raising her, and that cake sat there all week long. We each have a piece, maybe not each day, no big deal. Now I bake a cake, I eat the whole cake. And it's been something that a lot of people can relate to. So I have to consciously show great amount of restraint. So I try and live in the keto world the best, even though I'm paleo. I become keto because I try and limit the amount of carbs that I have. And for me, I manage that through fasting. Because I do have an addiction to carbs and sugar, meaning, I'd rather have a sweet potato a day than not. Instead of having 3 sweet potatoes, 6 apples, and a banana, which I could do at times, I will have, I try and keep my net carbs under, 100 or less a day. And I accomplish that by only eating 8 hours a day. So I fast a lot. And by fasting, it gives my body a chance to, first of all, rest and not be working so hard to digest food. But I end up going into ketosis just because my eating window is small. I'm managing my carbs. And that for me has proven to be the best way that I can manage my carb issue, because I did in July for a month not have really any fruit, no sweet potatoes, and no potatoes for a whole month. I was strict keto just to give myself a reset. But my body hormonally does not like strict keto like that. I start not feeling well. I really start cramping, even though I'm doing as much as I can, drinking salt water or things like that to prevent it. I take magnesium. I still, because of, I think, all my disease processes on board, I turn into basically just one big cramp. That for me, the only way that I can maintain keto and control my carb addiction is to fast. And I can only speak for myself in this regard. A little bit, like I don't ever have a piece of cake outside of the paleo guidelines, but even a clean piece of cake, I can start a snowball. So I have to consciously refrain from not.
So let's roll just a little bit back. And you've mentioned fasting, and we'll do fasting just a little bit later, but you've mentioned keto and paleo, and our viewers may be slightly confused. Are you doing paleo, or are you doing keto, or are you jumping from one to another and back to the first one, or you know what I mean?
Great question. Okay, the Walls protocol, which I also mentioned, is basically a modified form of paleo. Okay, Dr. Terry Walls has multiple sclerosis just like I do. And she shares with us a protocol that she followed and created called the Walls protocol, which is paleo modified to include that 9 cups of fruits and vegetables that we spoke about. That's basically the Walls protocol in a nutshell. There are some minor tweaks like no eggs and things like that, but it also is keto. Even though it's a paleo, it's keto because keto is ketones developing in your system, in your urine. And the way that that happens is by restricting your carbs. So you could be paleo and keto at the same time.
Perfect answer. So basically, keto and paleo are very close together. So if you take carbs out of paleo diet, you're basically on keto diet. Would that be correct?
Yes, but a lot of people are going to say, but wait a minute, paleo says no dairy, and I see people with keto eating fat cheese pizza and cheese. To me, there is a healthy version of keto and there is a non-healthy version of keto. So the big version of keto that I do is vegetable rich and plant-based rich and protein, and we're just keeping carbs down. There are other forms of keto where all people do is eat cheese, dairy, meat, no vegetables, and they still are in ketosis. They both will deliver ketones in your urine. One supports your mitochondria and your cells by giving plants and fruits. Even though limited fruits, you're still maybe eating berries, high antioxidant, blackberries, blueberries, cherries, strawberries, a cup of those a day. You're still going to be keto, even though you're having a little bit of sugar, right? Whereas the people that are doing the dairy protein rich usually are doing it void of any fruits and vegetables, which scares me personally. I'm not a physician, I'm not a doctor, but as someone, as we talked about, has tried every possible eating regime, and again, what works for me may not work for you, I can tell you that I've never felt better than having this many fruits and vegetables in my diet every day. I believe that Mother Nature provides for us, and everything that we need to thrive is really here, and it comes out of the soil. And the sad truth is that when you walk into a grocery store, that is not what you would think, at least in America, because most of the stuff is not what's coming from the soil. It's in a box, can, or jar, and eating in box, can, or jar nearly put me in an institution or made me homeless because it took all my money and took everything from me. Eating what Mother Nature provides, I move my body freely. I still have MS, but I manage every symptom. I enjoy every day, and I get to live a full passion-driven life.
What an in-depth look at Paleo Diet Health Benefits. A great and rare story about how to reverse multiple sclerosis with biohacking, and Paleo Diet being a huge part of it. Thank you, V, for sharing your knowledge. What about you? What is your chosen diet? Or actually dietary lifestyle? Let me know in the comments below, okay? Again, V Capaldi's website is paleobosslady.com. Check her out. If you like this episode, you're gonna love what's coming in the future, so don't forget to subscribe. I am Matt. Thanks for watching.